We've been waiting patiently for signs that our crepe myrtles have recovered from the cold winter temperatures this year. And in some plants, we're actually seeing buds breaking and leaves opening up on the aerial portions of our plants. But on most of them, it's quite evident that the shoots have died back. And so we're going to need to cut these back to the ground. I suppose that could be heartbreaking if you have a really large crepe myrtle, but we can also look at it as an opportunity to renovate some of those crepe myrtles that have been improperly pruned for a number of years. So to renovate these plants, we're going to start by just simply cutting the shoots back to ground level. And for smaller ones, you could use a hand pruner. For some of the larger ones, you want to get a loppers out. And we want to cut these as close to the ground as possible. It might be difficult to get really low on the inside if you have a really dense crown, but just do your best. Try not to cut these succulent new shoots, but inevitably we're going to damage a few of those. And that's okay, because look how many there are here. We have so many that we're definitely going to have a nice canopy come out from what's remaining. Now, as we do this, we want to think about how many shoots we leave in the end. Look how many we have here. If we'd allow all of these shoots to grow up, we're going to end up with a really dense canopy of foliage, but very few flowers. Crape myrtles will actually flower better if they have a more open canopy that allows sunlight to penetrate. So with tree-formed crape myrtles, I usually prune those back to about 5 to 7 of the strongest shoots, and I'll allow these to grow out into trunks. For more of a shrub form like this, you might select 9, 11, 13, somewhere around there, depending on the form that you desire to maintain. But by thinning that back, we'll allow the light in, which will improve flowering. It's likely that we're going to continue to get some of these new shoots to emerge over the next few weeks. So we'll want to come back and continue to thin those back to the strongest shoots. A few other plants that are likely going to require this type of rejuvenation pruning this season include the Vitex and the Nandina. Some of our other plants are going to need more of a trim to remove some of the dead material, but they haven't died all the way back to the ground. A good example of this is the William Penn barberry. This barberry has sustained damage on the shoot tips, but the core of the plant is still very healthy. And we can approach pruning this in a number of ways. I think of it much like the way we prune a rose, where we cut back to the living tissue. So there might be some shoots like this where we have buds and we want to cut back to just above the living buds, and we want to look for an outside facing bud and cut at a 45-degree angle. Some of the tissue is completely dead, and we want to just go ahead and remove those entirely. But even if we cut back to a living bud like we have here, the branch is fairly sparsely foliated, and so if you want, you can also cut these all the way back to a living bud lower down, or cut them to a cross branch, and that'll just remove some of this upper stuff that's not looking so good and encourage the plant to grow back more densely. There's really no reason to leave on this upper sparsely foliated branches. Well, we certainly have our work cut out for us this year, cleaning up all of our shrubs after the winter damage. Let's hope we don't see too many winters like this one anytime soon.